Today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the Diamond Select Toys Marvel Select Spider-Man Special Collector's Edition figure. Make out what Spider-Man comes with? Well, it's actually a smashed car diorama. Probably not the most exciting of things that have come with the Marvel Select figure, but we'll see how things go when we open up the figure itself. As for the side of the package, you've got some nice artwork of Spider-Man there. And on the back, there is the Spider-Man on top of his smashed car. Other figures available, there's Marvel Girl and Abomination. Bitten by a radioactive Spider-Man thrust into the world of secret villains, secret identities, and alien symbiotes, Spider-Man continues to amaze adults and children alike with his heroic rescues, abominable will, and passion for harassing J. Jonah Jameson. Whether thwarting street crime or foiling Norman Osborn's schemes, the world knows they can count on their friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Spot's going to take a break and get this opened up, but when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the Marvel Select Spider-Man. There's more anyway, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Okay, let's get the display stand out of the way, and then we'll have a look at the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. As it goes for display stands, it's a crushed car. Not quite certain the model of car. I don't think it's really relevant, but it's a smashed green car. Not likely due to the cause of Spider-Man. I'm sure it was maybe Spider-Man fighting the Rhino, or some supervillain has smashed this and Spider-Man just ends up being on top of it, because there are little peg points where Spider-Man can sit on top of it or peg on top of it. He's got peg holes on the undersides of his feet, and you can attach said Spider-Man like so. The downside, though, is that, well, the underside of it is just completely hollow. I can completely understand Diamond Select's decision to make this a hollow piece, because really, truthfully, if this was all a filled plastic piece, this would jack the price up of this Marvel Select figure considerably. That being said, it's honestly not one of their better display stands that come with a figure. I guess, you know, if you want to get creative, you could display like Rhino next to this car, or like a Hulk or something like that. It's not fantastic by any stretch of the imagination, but I guess at least you get something. So again, not crazy about it, but you know, you get a smashed car. Okay, so let's have a look at Spider-Man. There's things I like about the Spider-Man here, and there's things I'm not crazy about. For starters, let's look at some of the pros. The blue that they opted to give him here, really nice. In fact, it's one of my favorite looking blues I've seen on a Spider-Man figure. It's also more of a matte finish as opposed to something shiny, which is a slight departure than some of the other Spider-Mans that we've seen. It somewhat off-puts it against the shiny red, where the two kind of conflict with one another. But I'm glad that the blue at least is not shiny, that it's not shiny on shiny. The blue kind of just grounds a bit of that red. I also really like the lankiness that they've given this build. Spider-Man, maybe proportionately, doesn't quite make sense. Like, his torso seems really stretched. This little area here seems really narrow. Feasibly, maybe it's not what a teenager body build could be, but of course for Spider-Man, it's perfect. As for some critiques about the figure, while the webbing isn't bad, some of the details get a little on the messy side. Like the spider emblem on the chest area there, it's got areas where the red has carried into it, where it's a little sloppy. On the back, you could say that's a little bit of shading, but it's not quite a very clean looking back emblem. I love that the emblem is as large as it is. You don't see this kind of proportion of Spider-Man very often. And maybe that's why I like this figure a lot. Yeah, I admit, like, the webbing, you know, the webbing can be a little disastrous. You got areas here for no reason whatsoever that are darker versus areas here that are on the lighter side. The hands are pre-posed, well, in the sense that, of course, Spider-Man's hands are always pre-posed, but he doesn't come with any other hands. So one hand is always going to be in a closed fist, the other hand is the shooting web. I tend not to display Spider-Man ever with a shooting web hand. I usually give him more of a closed fist or a partially open hand depending again whatever we can get with the figure itself. As for the head is really much very similar to the torso. Kind of big at the top, narrow as you get further down to the chin. It's a very alien-like head. Not quite realistic, I suppose, in the standards of what maybe other Spider-Man figures would look like. He's a very awkwardly sculpted, and yet somehow through that ends up being a very interesting looking Spider-Man. It's got the big eyes, but yeah, you will admit like he's got a very alien-like head. Very big head, very narrow, very long chin area. But again, it goes perfect with this sort of torso. The legs, I think the legs are probably the more realistic end of it. Muscular, yes. And almost dropped the figure. Very big on the calves. Like he doesn't fit with the other Spider-Mans that we've gotten. But I almost dig the figure for that same reason. And I really like the blue. I just wish like the paint was a little cleaner, especially around the web area. Like here we've got a little bit of splotch on the side of his face. If this was just a lighter color of red, almost if it was the color of his waist for the rest of his red here, I think would make this figure excel a lot more for me. When it comes to Spider-Man's posability, he's not as bare bones as you would think he might be. His head is on a ball, well, it's on a ball joint, but you can't bring the head further back than what it's doing right now. His head almost kind of permanently always looks down. I wish there was a way to bring this up a little higher, but that's as much clearance as it's going to allot me. Shoulders hinge, no issues there. They rotate all the way around. He's got a bend point in the elbow, which also allows the forearm to rotate. He's got a rotation in the wrists. No torso joint at all. I mean, basically, this is just all one piece. He does have a swivel, though, in the waist. Legs have a ball joint. No issues there. A bend at the knee, which also rotates the lower leg. And finally, a hinge in the foot. He is not by far the friendly, posable Spider-Man. He's a little less posable than maybe some of his other releases. But I like this figure. I just wish, though, he was a little cleaner in the paint execution. I love the blue. In fact, the blue almost reminds me of the new 52 Superman blue. Very, very similar. I just wish like the red was a little cleaner. The off proportions, the almost weird alien-like proportions that the Spider-Man has, surprisingly, I do dig. So, I would say at the end of the day, would I recommend the figure? Yes. Is it a perfect Spider-Man? No. Is it a little weird of a looking Spider-Man? Yes. That being said, after watching this review, it's entirely up to you if you want to pick this figure up. I did pick this up from my local comic book store, and as Spot always says, support your local comic book stores. Today's Toy Spot, we were having a look at the Diamond Select Toys Marvel Select Spider-Man. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more Toy Spots heading your way. Thanks for watching. See you next time.